Good morning, health class, fifth period. Mr. Marionis decided to be super cool teachers and let you do your work for Friday whenever you want. We'll have the assignments due on Sunday at midnight. So whenever you want to get a chance to do them, you can. Okay. So day 2, this week we're doing mental illness and the stigma behind it. First thing is we won't be meeting on Zoom. I'll cancel that part. We're going to look at what stigma is, review myths about mental illness, and steps to reduce mental illness. You're going to also watch 2 short videos, and then you're going to research 2 famous people. It's editable, so just put who you're going to research, and then it shouldn't be repeated. So just make sure you guys aren't repeating a name. Okay, so here we go. So I want you guys to just kind of think about a couple questions before we start. What are some of the negative things you've heard about people with mental illness? And what are some positive things that you've heard about mental illness? Why do you think people with mental illness are stigmatized? Can you think of other health issues, conditions, social issues that have stigmatized throughout history? There's definitely one like leprosy, where they took people that were lepers out and gave them their own places to live. There's also been people with physical disabilities. Remember years and years and years ago, they were given away to homes and stuff like that. Families wouldn't keep them, stuff like that. And what kind of factors have contributed to changing public attitudes around these conditions or issues? It's usually education, right? And laws being made. And what do you think influences perceptions about mental illness? Definitely, as in my counseling role, I've definitely seen families definitely influence perceptions. My parents don't believe in therapy, or my parents go to therapy and they're cool with it and they want me to go. How do you think stigma affects the lives of people with mental illness? Of course, it's very hard to talk about it. So we're going to talk about some myths. This is attached to the presentation. Myths and stigma. Okay, myths we know are stories that are used to explain what we do not know and contribute strongly to stigmas. These are the myths, right? And one way to help decrease stigma is to challenge myths with data and with scientific knowledge. So we're going to be doing myth busting today. Yeah. Okay, so myths. We're going to look at 4 different characteristics about this. Okay, so this is going to be about the causes of mental illness. So mental illness are caused by witchcraft, spells, or possessions by demons. Mental illnesses are a result of punishment of a higher power. Okay, realities about this. Okay, mental illness are the result of disturbances in usual brain function that lead to difficulties with control of feelings and thinking behavior. It's something going on with how your brain is connecting synapses and stuff like that. That's what causes mental illness. Mental illness is not caused by spirits, witches, or demons. Maybe some of you believe in that stuff, some of you don't, but it's not caused by that. And mental illnesses are not the result of punishment, God, or bad karma. Okay. And then causes. Okay. So these are more causes about it. Mental illness is caused by food that we commonly eat. Mental illnesses are the result of moral failure or laziness, moral failure. Rare vitamin deficiencies can be associated with symptoms found in some mental illnesses, but foods we eat do not cause mental disorders. Sometimes it can make, certain types of eating habits can make it more pronounced, but it's not like that's the cause of someone becoming depressed. Mental illnesses are not caused by moral failings or laziness. Sometimes people with mental illness experience severe fatigue or lack of interest as part of illness, not as its cause. So it's one of the symptoms. Okay. So a lot of times when a student will tell me, I can't get out of bed, I'm really tired, I'm sleeping a lot, I can't make it through my day, that will be a sign for me, okay, this student might be depressed and might have a mental illness. Some more causes. Mental illnesses are caused by usual stresses of everyday life, and mental illnesses are caused by poor mothering. Ay, come on. Everyday life stressors are normal and necessary for learning and developing life skills. They do not cause mental illness. For some people, severe and persistent stress, like living in a war zone, can increase the risk of developing a mental illness like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Of course, that can be caused by people that live in those places. Like, of course, like in places like Syria and stuff like that, you could find more mental illness probably than that. Also, like we're going to talk about addiction and stuff like that later this semester. Those types of things, like sometimes being put, environmental factors can lead to it coming out. Okay. Mothers are blamed for many things, including causing mental health. Poor mothering may not help children go and develop well, but itself does not cause mental illness. Okay, myths about people. People with mental illness are violent, and people with mental illness should not have the same rights as the rest of society. And mental illness rarely leads to violence. Most violence is not due to mental illness. People with mental illness are more likely to become victims of violence, so bullying. A person who has mental illness has all human social rights that every other person has. Okay. People with mental illness cannot be good friends. People with mental illness cannot achieve anything. We're going to talk about some of the most famous, some very famous people that have mental illness, and they are very, very successful in their lives. Also, like you can be a good friend with someone that has mental illness. Mental illness is a sign of personal weakness. I think that's one of the reasons why people don't admit to it, that they have maybe mental illness. People with mental illness are to blame for their own problems. People with mental illness are self-centered. People with mental illness could snap out if they wanted to. So these are all, mental illness is a brain disorder, not a personal weakness. Okay. People with mental illness will get better if they appropriately treated, right? If you take your medication and you do well, if you are consistent with it. And people with mental illness may feel embarrassed or that they are inferior to others, experience low self-esteem and low confidence. This is called self-stigma. It's made worse by the myths others have about mental illness. You know, some of us say like, estás loca, or you're crazy. People that have mental illness really seriously have an issue with someone saying those terminologies, right? Just like throwing them out. Myths about treatment. People with mental illness are never get better. Mental illness is too difficult to treat. There's different levels. Many people with mental illness will get well and stay well with the right treatment. Sometimes treatments will not be effective. Okay. So it's just like, some cancer patients will survive, based on the treatment, or, they'll get better or worse based on different scenarios. Mental illness is because they affect how the brain functions, sometimes need more complex treatments, but this does not mean they are too difficult to treat. There are treatments for most types of mental illness, and some are more effective than others. So more myths about treatment. Treatment for mental illness are not as good as treatments for physical illness. Treatment for mental illness are common sense and everyone knows what should be done. Oh no, that's why we have people that are trained as psychologists. That's why we have people that are trained as psychiatrists. And of course that will help treat people. Treatments of mental illness are good and as bad as treatments for physical illness. Like not everyone can afford treatment. Not everyone realizes they're going into it, depending on your family, if they're willing to recognize it, all those things, right? You guys, this thing I think is the most important. The reason why we have this health class is to have you guys understand these things. So many people do not know the realities about mental illness, and so they continue to believe myths. Once you know realities of mental illness, you can help bust myths by letting others know realities. So everyone can bust myths when you speak reality, okay? And that's what we gave you here, and that's really important to remember, okay? You guys can watch the 2 movies, okay? They're about 2 people that have mental illness and what their struggles have been over the years. And then there's lots of people. All these people you can see listed here have had mental illness and have worked through it. What we're going to ask, what Mr. Mario and I'd like you to do is choose 2 people to do research on. This is, there's a doc in the, sorry. There's a doc in here that shows that, okay? And I'd like you guys to choose the person, their greatest accomplishment, like what they're known for, and then type of mental illness. Where it's the name of the person, please put in their picture, okay? You can see all these people that are listed here. The other two documents that are here, just I'd like you to make sure you see these, is that here's a definition of a stigma. These are terms related to stigma, stereotype, so a person or thing that conforms to an unjust fixed impression or attitude, okay? We know that stereotypes are not good to make, that they're overarching statements, that they're not very helpful for people. A prejudice is a preconceived opinion. Prejudice is agreeing with stereotypes, okay? Like this example, I think people with mental illness are dangerous without knowing or understanding. Literally, you're prejudging them. And then, of course, discrimination. Discrimination is behavior that may result from stigma. I don't want people with mental illness around me, therefore I discriminate against them by not hiring them. Things like that, okay? So this is a really important piece to look at, defining a stigma. And then this one, reducing stigma. I think this is one that we really need to think about, is how can we help reduce this ourselves and in the community at large, right? So providing information based on reliable research, okay? This is why we're trying to give you this information. We'll be talking about it for the next few weeks. Effective advocacy and public education programs. You guys know that here at a school, we added this health class as a requirement to make sure that we were dealing and managing these things. So this is it's showing you guys how to do that. And hopefully in other schools, they do have these programs as well. Proximity or direct contact with people with mental illness. You do have peers that have mental illness. You do have teachers that have mental illness. There's all sorts of things. That's why I share with you guys my stories. I don't have mental illness, but I've had mental crises, which is part of mental illness. Oh, Lord. Let me get this back to you guys. Okay. And then programs that help people become better integrated into the community. Okay. I know that there's some community programs here. There's good mental health care specialists, treatments and supports. We have that as well. And better mental health literacy so that people just are aware of what these are. Okay. Watch your language. Remember, I told you guys that that saying like, oh, you're crazy, that could be taken really offensively. Also, listening to people who have experienced mental illness, if you can listen to them and hear them. Also, if you guys ever have a friend that's in trouble that you think might be having a problem, how do you report it, how to talk to them, those types of things we'll be talking about later. Responding to stigmatizing material in the media, how do you respond to that? And speak up about it. Be open to being able to talk about it. Talk responsibly, demand change if you see it's in a problem. I think that I know that that SEP has made some programs for mental health, especially right now with what's going on with COVID, and providing support for organizations if you are in that mode to be able to volunteer and stuff like that. And get active, you guys. There's lots of ways to get active. So that was the program for today. And I hope you liked it. I hope you guys can do some of this before you have your Halloween. Enjoy Halloween.